Okay, it's recording now.
Dude, I don't think that's the smartest, like, cause look at it, you got like,
I know, but
okay,
watch what I can do.
oh, there we go.
So wherever you want to stand from. I just thought it was kind of, that was good. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Look, it's on the screen too.
Okay, so anyways, I glad that I was asked to come speak here. Hopefully I can add some insight to certain areas as far as some of the things that you're talking about in class. I was given a pretty kind of vague areas what to talk about, so really anything's on the table to really talk about to some degree. But before I got started, I wanted to give you a little bit of background about myself, so you kind of put things into context as far as why I'm up here. So my name's Tom Rush. Some of you guys might know my sister, Tanya Hodges, who's a U of A person. That's my oldest sister. But we were actually, kind of the short story is we were actually born and raised out in Dayton. You guys know where Dayton's at?
Ice cream.
Yeah. So my dad was one of the farm managers out there, and we lived out there. It was a great place. That small school is a great school. We went to hunt, fish, and all that when we were like 8, 9 years old, drive cars. So we did all the cool stuff you can't do today. But anyways, that's kind of my background of where I'm from. There are 7 kids in our family. I'm number 4. Basically from there, all my other siblings went to Alep High School. You guys know where Alep High School's at? Across the mountain, the high school out in Welton, Tacna, Antelope High School, yeah. So anyways, the siblings went there. I kind of had this wild idea to go somewhere else. So I actually went to Brophy in Phoenix, which is a Jesuit high school. It's one of the better academic schools in Arizona. So I kind of want to get the heck out of Dayton and try something new. Make a long story short, did that. Went to school back east. Went to Amherst College back in Massachusetts. Anybody ever hear of that? It's on about 2.5 hour drive outside of Boston. Got my economics degree. And then from there, decided what do I do with it? A lot of my buddies were going to the big cities to work, like New York or Chicago. And I kind of knew I wanted to come back to Arizona. So I just pretty much didn't do any job interviews because I didn't want to be in those big cities. But to make a long, I'm going to tell you my story because it's kind of unusual on how you fall to places you are today. So I got back and looking for a job out of college, had an undergrad degree. My major was economics. I don't know if I said that. But anyways, the quickest way for me to make money at that point was to work in the grape season, the fields. So if you work about 6 weeks in the fields, you make about, give or take, about $2,500, $3,000. So I had to go one more time to work because I needed money. And then from there, I went up to Phoenix and I stayed with my aunt and uncle, and I was going to find a good job, right? Everyone wants a good job. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Really, I just wanted to get some money so I could pay bills. That was number one. But make a long story short, I went to these different areas in Phoenix and I gave my resume up all over the place. So I went to a title company, insurance company, real estate company, anybody that looked like, I knew I'd probably work in the office or something. I wasn't looking for an outside job, but anyways, went there, got a call back from Dean Witter, which Dean Witter is now Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley is a financial company. And they interviewed me and said, well, what do you know about the business? And I was 24 years old. No, I was actually 22 years old. And I said, nothing. And they go, well, what do you, what do you expect? So we got it was an interview, but at the end they said, well, you're not licensed. You don't know much about the business because we have to get licensed to do securities. So pretty much said, we're not going to hire you. Go work for someone else. In 3 years, come back, we'll hire you. So it's kind of a thank you, but no thank you. And then on the way walking out, I was dressed up for a job interview. One of the advisors said, hey, what do you know? I'm looking to hire somebody. What do you know about the business? Like, well, I don't know anything about the business and I'm not licensed. He's like, well, I can hire you for minimum wage. And, I can't pay you a lot, but I'll show you what I know about the business. So at that point, I was like, okay, I mean, I'd low overhead, same with my aunt and uncle. And the school I went to back in Amherst College was pretty expensive school. Back then it was about 40 grand a year. So, I knew my student loans were kicked into that. But anyways, I had an opportunity to do something. And, I looked at the people that pulled up to those buildings in the morning and they all had nice cars. They all had, dressed nice. So like, I knew I wanted to be part of something like that. And didn't even know what I was going to do. But to make a long story short, this guy taught me more about the business and basically how it worked. And I worked for him for about 9 months, and he paid me on the side. And he ended up going back to the boss of Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, and said, "Hey, you got to hire this guy." Basically, after that, they hired me on, and I got licensed and started in the business. We went to New York City, worked in the World Trade Center for like 3 weeks. I was part of the training. And then when I got back, there was about 50 financial advisors in the room, and they said, "Well, we have an opening out in Yuma. Who wants to go to Yuma?" And everybody put their head down real quick, because this manager was going to pick somebody in the room because he was the boss. So I was like, you know what, I'll go to Yuma. I mean, I don't know a lot of people in Yuma because I'm from Dayton, but I knew my family was in Yuma County. So I said, what the heck, I'll go. So to make a long story short, it worked out pretty well. If I didn't learn from this gentleman, his name was Mike Doubleday, on how to proceed in the business, I don't think I would have made it, because there was a lot of things that you have to do. And really, when you're a financial advisor, you basically have to convince people to give you money. That sounds easy, but it's not. One thing about people's money is, I've read books and that, but people care the most about their family. Like if you want to get beat up or kicked in the head, if you mess with someone's family member, to some degree, you're going to have a repercussion. The second thing people care about is their money. They might not tell you that. They don't want to seem greedy or that, but money is very high on the list of what people want. I mean, you work your whole life to get money, pay bills, buy a house, buy a car, whatever. So money is emotional. It is. So anyways, to make a long story short, worked for Dean Witter, Morgan Stanley in Yuma for about 7 years. And then Merrill Lynch was looking to open up an office here in Yuma, and they contacted me, and I decided to do it. So I moved to them for about 2 years. And then in 2000, the stock market went down because of the internet bubble and the tech bubble. And so they shut the Dean Witter office, and they shut the Merrill Lynch office in Yuma. They said, if you don't have a bigger office, you're getting shut down. And so both those offices got shut down. And they said, well, you can come to Tucson and work in the Merrill Lynch office up in Tucson. And I was like, well, I don't want Tucson. I'm from Yuma. My family's from here. So anyways, make a long story short, I had to open up my own practice. So basically, I decided, okay, well, and I knew about there's different financial companies. Some are corporate, and then there's ones that are called independent. And independent means that you can do the same thing you're doing, but basically you own the practice. Like Merrill Lynch owned the assets, owned the clients. And this way, to some degree, it's more about my business than corporate. So I wanted to do that. So to make a long story short, I took over the Merrill Lynch office, which is on 16th Street, right next to Smart and Final, across from Wells Fargo Bank. Well, our office is still there. But basically, I took over the furniture. Now this is where it gets interesting. So I didn't have a lot of money. I had 2 kids that were infants. My wife was a 3rd grade teacher at Ronald Reagan School, so she made some money, but not a lot of money. So I told my wife, I said, hey, well, the manager from Merrill Lynch said, hey, we could be closing this office, but I could tell in his tone, like, probably gonna close the office. So I told my wife, I said, and this is the way you want to start a business. I said, get every credit card that comes in the mail and fill it out. So basically, we filled out a bunch of credit cards for like a month or 6 weeks. And then when they closed the office, I basically started the business on credit cards. So I got over $100,000 in credit cards because I had pretty good, credit and all that. My wife was a teacher, 2,500 here, 3,000 here, 5,000. So basically I took over the rent, took over the furniture. There's me and another person, and we basically took over the Merrill Lynch office on 16th Street. And then, you don't have any client, when you start a business, you have 0 clients. So it took me a while to get my old clients from Merrill Lynch and Dean Witter to come over. But to make a long story short, I was racking up these credit cards. So by the time I got about 85,000 in credit card debt, my wife caught on what I was doing. I didn't really want to tell her because she would worry more than I would. So I figured I would take the brunt because I didn't want her to, but she goes, we're going to go bankrupt because we're spending more money. And we had a house, we had cars, we had kids. So it's not like we can, we couldn't really unwind our life. But so make a long story short, we barely made it where, the revenue started coming in, clients came in. Basically, I didn't go under. Most small businesses within 5 years, over 50% are usually out of business. So we made that, but fast forward today, We got 16 employees in our office, and we have 5 financial advisors, and we manage about $1/3 billion, mostly Yuma money. And people move out of Yuma, so we follow them through Zoom and that, we can do meetings. Well, the old days it was tougher to do transactions, but Zoom made it really easy. So anyways, we're in a pretty good position through blood, sweat, tears, a lot of work. And also about 10 years ago, I started a property casualty business for car insurance, house insurance, Medicare supplements, any type of insurance. So what I realized in my business is, I'm talking about people's money, but people also have other things they need taken care of. So across my parking lot is a company called Yuma Risk Management. And me and another guy started it. He was the insurance guy. He's in the field every day. And I help, refer people to him, but that's been going on for, I think, about 8.5 years. And they have about 6 employees there that are growing. So that's kind of my experience with having employees. And then, so what I want to do basically is talk about, if I only had so much time to tell the next generation what to do about money, how money works, like anything I could tell, and then I was going to, not be around. Like, this is what I want to talk about, because after 28 years of being in the business, I've seen things, and I kind of know, things. And hopefully you guys can learn something. That's the goal, basically. I made some notes because I know once I start talking, I'm going to forget something. But one of the things I want to bring up is, wealth or having money, right? I mean, so I was asked this question. I've talked at some high schools before, but who in this room does not want to be wealthy? You might not want to be wealthy, but does anybody think like, I don't want to have money, I don't want to have more money that I can spend? And you guys kind of agree, like, usually, not always, but wealth is usually a positive thing, not a negative thing. Anyone's not going to say they don't want to have wealth. And the reason why I ask, because I have some kids that say, well, you know what, I don't really care about money. My passion is helping people. My passion is, doing something else, and money's not, on the top of the list. Well, what I tell people, knowing what I know, is the more money you make, you can then pass on to other people. So the biggest impact people, I think, can have on humanity is basically having enough money to make a big change. And you guys know Bill Gates, right? He's in charge of the Gates Foundation and doing a bunch of things to change, how the world works. Some you might agree with, some you might not. But you can, if I had a lot of money, I could go hire 10 social workers to help whatever project I want, compared to me trying to be a one-man shop, trying to, be a social worker. So the point is, money can do a lot of things, and one of them is it can leverage your time. And if you think, this big, money can make you think this big, right? You can get other people to work for you. My okay.
No, you actually figured out how to get rid of the.
Oh, okay. So anyways, so one of the things that, if you look at what wealth is all about, there's a couple books I recommend you read. And if you guys really want to get on track, one of them is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You guys ever heard that? Read it. And the other one's called The Millionaire Next Door. And these are older books, but they keep coming up with new editions. But basically, they give you an insight as far as, how to create wealth. One of the biggest ways to create wealth that people might not be aware of is education. So they've done studies, and they showed that people with an AA degree compared to a high school degree will make like an extra, I think it was like 450,000 or something through their lifetime by having an AA compared to high school. And then the AA compared to a 4-year degree, the 4-year degree person makes like a $1.2 million more. So the quickest way you can do to try to enhance your wealth accumulation is basically get educated. Why? And I'm a business owner, I hire people because there's a lot, we just tried to hire somebody. We got 82 applicants in Yuma, and we had a criteria what we wanted. But of the 82 applicants, we're going to go after the ones that show a track record that they can finish something. So, if you did have an AA, we just chucked it basically. Could have been a good person, but you gotta weed it out somewhere. So education is very important. If you have a master's and doctorate, they make more money. So, I assume you guys are in class here, so hopefully you're pursuing a degree in something, but that's a good way to make money. Some people, especially with where you guys are at in life, I know there's some older people in the room, but most part, when I was your age, I didn't have any money. But you can make financial decisions every day, and even if you don't have money. So one example is you can educate yourself, get a degree. I mean, you don't have the money, but that's enhancing your financial progressment. The other thing you could do is hypothetically, I don't know if you guys are aware, but if you have a kid, and I have 4 kids, and kids are great, but there's a time and place when to have a kid, when not to have a kid. But on average, kids cost about $250,000 to raise from 0 to age 18, and that doesn't include high school. I mean college. So I got 4 kids or 3 kids in college, and that's like another $100,000. So basically, if you don't do certain things in life from a financial standpoint, it will set you back, right? So, and I throw out the kids thing because that's a great example. If you end up having a kid or that, you're going to financially be set back, time, money, and ultimately, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm just saying those decisions you can make and how to make your life better. Another decision you can make are cigarettes. And again, I could care less if you smoke, but if you smoke a pack a week for your whole life, you're going to burn about $180,000. And someone did the math on that. So again, that sets you back if you're trying to build your wealth. Certain things, go backwards. Cigarettes aren't going to help. Simple things like take drug and alcohol. I mean, if you get stuck in a rut where you're, drug and alcohol for months or years, or you go to rehab. I know some people that have gone to rehab. The typical rehab is like $20,000 to $40,000 for about a month or 60 days. Very expensive. So if not on you, at least your parents or someone's going to get stuck with some type of bill. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is, if you can make good choices and not get stuck in a bad choice, financially you can propel yourself. And that's what you got to think about. That certain things do A, then B, then C, then D. One of the things that I see a lot of clients miss, and even I missed it a little bit. I wish I would have done it a lot quicker. But Einstein talked about, I think, the 7th wonders or 8 wonders, I don't remember. But he joked about another wonder, and that was basically called compounding interest. So I don't know if you guys know what compounding interest is, but basically, it takes off slow and then it really, really, really goes up. And that's saying, if you relate that to your money, it applies, you can get more wealth by starting quicker than if you started later. So to give you an idea, if you were a 25-year-old to age 35 and you put away $5,000 a year away for 10 years, and you had the money in the stock market. Now, historically, the S&P 500 over a 30-year period, does anyone have any idea what type of return the stock market puts out over, say, 30 years? And just a ballpark idea, what percentage return? Does it?
6.89 low, 11% high.
Say that one more time.
6.89 low, 11.2% high. It's like 27%.
That guy pretty much hit on the head. In a nutshell, I tell people it makes about 9% on average over a period of time. So if you put 5,000 away for 10 years from 25 to 35, and you made 9%, but then you never put any more money away to age 60, that's one scenario, and it grows at say 9%. The other scenarios is you put away 5,000 a year starting at 35, but you go all the way to age 60. So you do it for 25 years, $5,000. It's a trick question, but you would have more money by putting away money early and then stopping than you would by putting away 5,000 for 25 years compared to 5,000 for 10 years if you start early. So compounding interest has a really big effect on your money. And so the quicker you can figure out how that works, and Rich Dad Poor Dad and some of these books will kind of give you some basic knowledge on how to proceed, but you can be in a much better position. Now, do any of you guys know what the rule 72 rule? Yes. So this gentleman knows. Anyone else knows the rule of 72? When you try to figure out how quick it takes to double your money. Have you guys ever heard of the 72 rule? So this is kind of cool. I learned this in college, and you're going to use this your whole life. So basically, whatever type of return you get, divide it into 72, and that takes how long it takes to double your money. So if you get a 10% return divided to 72, it takes you 7.2 years to double your money. So that's a good thing to calibrate. Now, to put that into perspective, money market accounts or checking accounts at banks, just somebody, what do you think they pay in interest, on average? Yeah, they pay some money. I'll be generous and say they pay 1%. And some, you might find some pay 2%, but in general, let's just call it 1%. So the rule of 72 means it would take you 72 years to double your money with the bank account. Now, I'm getting my calculator out here because I'm not. Now, let's just say hypothetically, you put money in the bond market, and I'm gonna explain a little bit what bonds are and how they work. But do any of you guys have a rough idea what the average return of bonds are, like over the last 30 years?
I looked at.
Well, today bond rates were really low until the Fed raised rates 6-7 times. But I'm talking over a 30-year period. Gentlemen, you have any idea what bonds yield or have paid over the last
30 years.
Okay, they roughly pay anywhere between say 3 to 5%. So if let's just be generous and say they do 4%. So if you take the rule of 72, bonds are going to pay. Bring this up here. It's going to take you 18 years to double your money with bonds. So money market will take you 72 years, bonds will take you 18 years. Now the stock market is roughly 9, which we'll go with. So you divide that by 9, it takes you 8 years to double your money. So when you take this in a context with compounding money, if you can double your money in 8 years, you have, say you start with $1, you're gonna have $2 in 8 years, $4 in 16 years, and then $8 the next 8 years, and then another $8. So basically your money's going to grow quickly. So you got to start quickly, start early, have time, and you also have to have a type of return that makes money. Because just burying in your backyard, putting in your mattress, and putting in a savings account will not make you money. So you heard the old saying of it takes money to make money, or the rich get richer, right? Part of that is because of the compounding interest effect. If you inherit hypothetically $10,000 and someone starts with $1 because they have no money because they just got out of college, that $10,000 is going to compound a lot quicker. And as long as you don't do anything stupid to jeopardize a lot of it, as long as you keep having money, it's easier to make money. Now that I'm actually 53 years of age, and I'm 53. I'm going to be 53 in January to be exact, but I'm at a point in my life where I'm starting to see, buying properties and other things. You really realize like, dang, I just made X. But 20 years ago, I would never think like, oh, I could, make X. So it does have an effect on you. The more you have. So the kicker is you need to get some type of money, some type of asset to start letting it compound. If you don't do that, if you take the rule of 72, or if you compound any money at 0% or a very small number, you'll never have any money. So you got to figure out how to get money. Now, you can do this different ways. Some of my biggest clients never made a lot of money. Like I have a teacher who has a lot of money, never made a lot of money, but very good at saving. So I kind of give the analogy of when you look at people that are financially set, well, how are they different from other people? A lot of the times I compare it to the health, like going to the gym. So, if I went to the, if everyone went to the gym, most of us would be better shape, skinnier, right? And more like the TVs make you look like. But how come people don't go to the gym? I mean, who doesn't want to be healthy? I want to be healthy. Do I go to the gym? No, not really. So you can do the same thing with your money. If you get disciplined down where you can save so much money every paycheck, pay yourself first, and then try to increase that amount. And if you're not making enough money doing what you're doing, take another job, be an Uber driver, deliver pizza at night, whatever. But you got to get this money built up so it can stop compounding. And then the other thing you want to do is make sure you don't get sucked into something that is not a good investment. Now I've lost money, like 100% of my money, by putting it into things that are kind of dumb investments. So, buying a lotto ticket is probably a dumb investment because the odds of you getting things are not good. I personally put some money in some people's private companies. We had an idea that said, oh, that sounds good, but it didn't work out. So I lost, it wasn't a lot of money, but I lost it. So once you get this money, make sure you don't lose it all, because you got to start all over again. Now, one of the things that can really affect people, and I deal with people all day, is one of the biggest things that messes people up money wise between age 35 and 55. Guess what it is? Anybody? Divorce. Because basically, when you get a divorce, they split the assets in half. Depends on how good your attorney is, and half goes the one way, half goes the other way. So you see people that are getting to the point where they're accumulating that money, and bam, all of a sudden half of it goes somewhere else. So one of the things I tell people is, another financial decision, although it doesn't involve money, is picking your spouse is probably one of the smartest financial decisions you can make. If you pick someone who spends too much money, that's not going to help you. Or if you pick someone who only wants savings accounts because they don't want to take any risk, that's not going to help, because you need something to compound the money. So to me, it's very crucial to make sure, and no one has a crystal ball, but trying to pick somebody who's very compatible with your money ideas are compatible with their money ideas. Because most people, they've done studies, when people fight when they're married, I've been married for 26 years, so I'm lucky so far not to have any issues, but they fight over money. Most people fight over money. So, and they're not, got to pay the kids' tuition bill, got to buy the kids' clothes. Usually it's money. You spend too much, doing whatever. So I wanted to point that out. So make sure you guys spend a little bit of time and figure out you got the right person. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is, why do some people get wealthier than others? And I can give you 2 examples of friends that I have in Yuma, and they came here from another country. One was from India, the other one was from Egypt. And the India person, he's about 6 years old, and the one from Egypt's maybe 60 also. But the guy from Egypt came here with $86 in his pocket. And now he owns a bunch of properties in Yuma. I think he has about 10 rental houses, and he has about 3 commercial properties. And commercial means you rent it to business owners. So the guy's, is worth a lot, but he came here with nothing. And then the other guy came here from India with nothing, and he owns 3 hotels and a bunch of commercial property around Yuma. The hotel out in Welton, the Microtel by the freeway, he owns that. But again, he came here with nothing. So it kind of makes you wonder, how come some people can figure out how to make money and other people can't? One good thing about money, in my opinion, is it doesn't discriminate. It could care less, how smart you are, what color you are, if you were raised across the border in a trailer, if you're raised in Dayton, it could care less. If you do the basic fundamentals of how to grow your money, it doesn't discriminate by any means, which is kind of a nice thing, because hate to say it, but in this world, usually the more money you have, then the more that gets you into, better parties, where you get to travel more, or maybe your social media looks better. So money does get you status, whether you like it or not. I mean, to some degree that happens. So the point I'm trying to make is, some Americans, including my family, have been here for 5+ generations, and none of us are really filthy rich. I'm not even filthy rich, but have millions of dollars. And my question is why? Because you think about it, we all got put in the same spot. We all did whatever trade we did. The big thing that the difference is 2 things. One is people want to live for today. So if you make $1, you spend $1. Again, that leaves you absolutely zero. So how do you compound zero? You don't compound it. So, sometimes you save a little bit, but guess what? It doesn't help when you save and your bank account gets to $5,000. Now you start feeling like you have some money, so you want to do some things, and then eventually the 5,000 goes back to 3,000. So what you got to do is save, but then take that money and put it into something that's gonna do something. So to break it down in simple terms, you can put it into bonds, and I'll explain real quick what bonds are. Put it into the stock market, which I think we kind of know what that is, or you can put it into real estate, or the 4th thing you can do is put it into a business, preferably the business that you run. So if you look at the top billionaires in the world, I subscribe to the Forbes magazine, you know, all of them are business owners. So the ones that really hit the home run that make a lot of money are business owners. Now you might think, you know, yeah, they got big or whatever, they found Microsoft or whatever. But I work with business owners here in Yuma. And if you take one of the top plumbing guys in Yuma, the top electrician person, and I don't care what they do, the top dog groomer, a lot of these people make pretty good money. I mean, they make, you know, like top electrician guys in town make millions of dollars for themselves that you would think, you know, why do I want to become an electrician? Why do I want to be a plumber? So find out what your niche is and figure out how to make some money and do a good, and really the way to make the money is just be the best at what you do, right? People will refer other people and, you know, to get you to get more business. So what I was going with that, I'm not sure what I'm going with that, the other thing about you got to make some money, right? Somehow to start compounding it. But the bigger thing I see is taking risk. Now, I deal with people in my office. We have a risk profile exam. We have our clients take called Riskalyze, and it kind of puts you at 100, really risky, 1 not so risky. But I would say about 2/3 of people cannot take risk. I mean, they don't like risk, you know, they'd rather just be steady Eddie, and that's okay. But there's the other, you know, say 30 or 25% of people, those are the ones that usually take the risk and then make a lot of money. Because you got to take risks to make money. If making it was that easy, everyone would be rich, right? So let's talk a little bit about bonds. Have you guys talked much about bonds or?
Labels, okay, so my 211, you guys are gonna start bonds next week,
Okay.
yeah.
So to make-
But if we're talking about it from a corporate standpoint,
Okay.
not from a investor standpoint.
Okay, so I'll make it pretty simple, but basically bonds is where you lend money to somebody and then they hold it for a set period of time and they pay you back. So, you know, I can lend you some money and I don't know, like, you know, if I lend you a lot, you don't make a lot of money, good chance you're not gonna pay me back. So there's risk involved if people don't pay you back. But you know, you can lend money to individuals, you can lend money to family, you know, a lot of times that might not work out as well. We can also lend money to corporations. So if Walmart wants to build another 30 stores that cost a lot of money, they will basically go out and say, look, if you give me X amount of dollars, I'll pay you 6%, and it might come due in 10 years or 15 years. And then, you know, we put the money in and Walmart gets the money to build these 30 stores, and then Walmart will slowly pay us back 6%. And then when the bond matures, they got to pay us back the principal. So you always want someone who, you know, will pay you back. There's also government bonds. I mean, we lend money to the government all the time, and treasury bonds and savings bonds. So the government's the one paying us back. So, you know, bonds are safer, bonds are good for income, but they will average, give or take, you know, say 4% or so. So you're double your money every 18 years if you're in a bond. Now, stock market historically has done 9% on average, the S&P 500 like we just talked about. But there are some, you know, the kicker with individual stocks, what you want to try to do is find the ones that are really gonna, you know, go, you know. I give the analogy, I lived through the internet bubble. In the internet bubble, there's a ton of internet companies that were gonna do all these great things. And the reality of, if you had 100 internet companies, maybe 3 made it, say 3 to 5 made it. All the other ones went under. And that's pretty common when you have businesses. Like, I don't know if you guys remember, but like in the late 1870s, there was like 50 automobile makers to make cars, and only 3 made it. Ford, Dodge, and Chevy or General Motors or whatever they're called. So, so basically, if you can pick a stock that, you know, ends up being a main player in what they do, there's a lot of money to be made. So let me give you a quick example. Amazon went public almost 20 years ago. And if you were to put $1,000 in Amazon when it went public or when it started trading, any idea? Well, you probably don't know, but basically it's worth about $800,000. And that's 20 years. Now that's a really good example, and most people aren't going to buy the next Amazon, but there are companies out there that are doing a lot of cool things that you realize, like, oh, this is really, this probably, if this company doesn't do it, some other company's going to do it, because the technology is going to outweigh the others. Like automobiles are better than riding a bike. So it didn't take a lot of sense to realize, if I could pick the automobile company that's gonna be around, I probably could make some good money on it. So there's money to be made in the stock market. You also wanna give it time, time is of essence. To give you an idea with Microsoft, I mean, I could remember since I went to college and followed it, there was a period of time in my 28 years ago, for 10 years, Microsoft never made any money. It would have been pretty easy just to be like, you know what, it hasn't made any money, let's get out of it. But then, then it took off again and it made a lot of money. So, time is of essence to get money. If you're gonna buy a property or something, I mean, you're not gonna buy it, then immediately flip it. You could, if you found maybe a good deal and someone else wants it, but like anything else, properties will go up with time. So let's talk about residential houses. So on average in the United States, do you know how much a house goes up every year on average? If anyone had a guess? But this is not Human County, it's pretty much everywhere in the United States. It's less than 2.5%. So if you do the math again on the rule of 72, I don't want to do it again, but it might take you 22, 24 years to double the money. And I'm not saying residential houses aren't bad, they provide income, but so you got to figure out what type of investment does well, or that can help you compound. The other area is real estate. So I'm fortunate, I always tell people, knowing what I know, this is the best country in the world to get ahead in. I mean, they don't, as long as you play by the rules and don't get thrown in jail, they will let anybody get ahead in this world. And my two buddies from India and Egypt that came up with nothing are good examples. Well, here's one thing about real estate I like. Real estate, you can leverage your money. So if I go out and buy 100 shares of Home Depot, guess what? I got to stroke a check for 100 shares of Home Depot to buy it. With real estate, sometimes on a real house, I only got to put up 5% if it's my first house, first time home buyer, could be 10%. If things get strict or your credit's bad, it might be 20%. But the bottom line is you don't have to come up with all the money. And to me, that's pretty powerful because that means you can buy something bigger without putting up all the money. So it's a lot of cash flow. You got to make sure you make your payments or it could go away from you. But real estate is a powerful thing. Most people, to some degree, understand real estate. I besides my house, I probably have about 20 properties. And just to tell you, in Yuma, which Yuma's not on the map anywhere, but there's a piece of property on that side of the mountain, which was basically 80 acres. And I ended up picking it up for $12,500. And within about 6 years, it was worth about 200. And the reason why it went up so quick is the person who sold it to me didn't know the value of it. They lived in a different state. And they said, I said, hey, are you interested in selling? Yeah, give me X. And I knew X was way below, what it was worth. So it was a bad mistake on their side, but I bought it legally and then eventually you can sell it. So the good thing I like about real estate too is you can find deals out there. So if you buy Home Depot, like if everybody right now bought Home Depot instantly, you all get the same price, give or take, right? But with real estate, you don't get the same price. So if you find someone who is in dire straits, needs to sell property, someone gets a divorce, needs to split up their properties, they got to sell, or you buy a junky house or something that you can fix up. So with real estate, you always go out there and be patient and find the value. So I highly recommend, over time to get involved in the real estate. Some people, might buy their first house and then eventually might buy a second house and they usually quit. But if you bought a new house about every 3-4 years, because you only got to put down 10% and then rent it out. I mean, if you're young enough. I mean, that's how my friend Sam made it from Egypt. He just bought houses and stuff as he went, and over time it worked out in the cash flow. See what else I want to say. So, go ahead. Sure.
What does that look like when you have such a, like the debt on your credit, like you owe $300,000 for a house?
So,
That I understand.
I didn't hear that. What was that?
You said you get the LLC, you can buy it with the LLC.
Yeah, but you won't get a loan if you don't have good credit.
Well, let's say you get the first loan.
Yeah.
You have a credit, you get the first loan.
Yeah,
But doesn't your credit drop because now you have this big debt on your?
well, when they do the formula, you're gonna have to pay $1,000 a month for that house, so your formula will drop. But if you, so the answer is yes. But if you keep bringing in more money and, you know, you save 10%, buy another house, you know, they will, it's not easy, but it can be done. And if you rent one house out and it makes you $1,000 a month, the bank doesn't look at that as a liability because it's rented out and someone's paying $1,000 on your rental house. So then your formula goes back up again. But you're right. I mean, you can't just buy. There's things you gotta, do. You know, one of the reasons, if you read The Millionaire Next Door, they talk about all the people that come to the United States, immigrants, and they talk about the ones that are the most successful. And the one immigrants that are most successful, can anybody guess? This is a big guess. I didn't guess it either. It's the Russians. Which you're thinking, okay, why? But they explain why, and it makes a lot of sense. So in Russia, a lot of the times you work for a state company. So let's just say I make widgets, which is just some random thing. So they usually will make 9 for the state, but they keep 1 out the back door. And the 1 out the back door is sold in a black market, which means no one knows, they're basically stealing from a company that's ran by the government. So they might trade it or buy it, but a lot of these people are understand the act. If I buy this and then sell it here, I can make money. So they understand the knack of selling things. We're looking for a value buy. They actually, in this book, they talked about there's these big state condominiums that are ran by state or owned by state. So everybody lives like in a big great building. But they had it where when you knock on the door, you open up and it's a poor, crappy tile building, room. But then as you make it back towards the end of the suite, like then you have the best furniture, big TV, and they're all trying to not show their wealth, because a lot of the times their wealth was made through the black market of selling it, taking something and selling it. So basically they understand, how to buy and sell and kind of will and deal is what I say. The other thing about immigrants that does well, the second one was Asian, did the second best. And a lot of times what they do is, and I've talked to people that have done this, is they all pull their money together. So you can't buy a house because your credit, whatever, but you and your brother can buy a house, or you and your brother and your cousin. So they basically work their money as a team, and they will basically over time get more and more stuff because you're powerful with people. Now, some of the properties I own are commercial properties. Some I own by myself, me and my wife, but majority of them I own with other people. Why? Because you have power with other people's money. I mean, in the sense of, when you go to a bank and you sign on the line that you're gonna buy a building, they got 4 people that all make good money. They prefer that than one person who maybe makes good money, but I can get hit by a car tomorrow, or I can maybe not make as much money. So you're strong in numbers. Here's a quick story. I don't know, I like stories, but when we were little kids, we used to go over to Mission Beach, San Diego, and we stayed there for about a week. And I'm talking when we started, we were younger, and then we were in high school. I think when we switched out of Mission. But anyways, there was this Vietnamese family that the baby would be strapped to the back, the mom, the dad, their little kids. They would go around and they would pick up aluminum cans. And we back then you could drink on the beach. My aunt and uncles would drink beer, sodas. So at the end of the day, we had like a bunch of cans. So they would come by, we'd give them to them, and they had flip flops on, and you kind of something. I think we gave them some money. Here's a couple $. It was just really poor family. So, anyways, fast forward, I got out of college, and that was the last year we went for the summer for the beach there because we moved it up to Oceanside. But I was on the boardwalk, and this guy came up, and he was about younger than me, but kind of out of college. And he was sitting there, and we started talking. And I go, "Hey, well, what are you doing here?" Because it's like 10 o'clock at night on the boardwalk. He looked like a very professional kind of guy. He goes, "Well, I'm waiting to show this house because we're going to try to rent it out." And it was the beach house right on the ocean, which at that time ran about $2 million. And I go, "Oh, that's pretty cool. So is that like your parents' house?" Like, I mean, this guy was like 22 years old. He goes, "Well, it's our family," but he goes, "Actually, we own that one, that one, that one, and that one." And I was like, so I'm thinking, okay. Anyways, we kept talking. I said, "Hey, well, we've been coming down the beach for like 25 years, and that." He goes, "You probably know who my family is." And I go, "Well," anyways, he was a Vietnamese family that picked up the cans, and then I started talking to him, And he was saying, well, first, we all live together. Cause I told him, I said, how do you build that kind of wealth? Cause I mean, they had $10 million of beach property right there. And basically said they all live together, right? Low overhead. Then they would basically buy a house for somebody and then buy a house for the next person. And then they would buy businesses, buy random businesses like a restaurant, oil change, whatever. And then from there, they went to bigger properties and bigger properties. But anyways, it was just a true blown away since I saw them start from nothing to that. And that's pretty much all the opportunity that everyone in this room has. So it depends on if you want it enough, if you're willing to, sweat blood and tears. It's not easy to do some of these things. Most people get at a certain level and then they just plateau out. As long as I get my bills paid, I can go to a restaurant every now and then maybe I'm happy, I'm not gonna make more money. And I'm not telling you it's good or bad, everyone's different, but this country is set up where you can, do sky's the limit, really. Back to my original thing is you got families here for 5 generations that somehow don't accumulate wealth. And then you get families that are here for 1 generation and they own, a lot. And a lot of it has to do with the fundamentals of how to make money. And that's why you should read books and get knowledgeable, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and other things. But I kind of did give an analogy. I explained this good of getting money, building wealth is also like exercise. So you can be in the worst shape in the world. And if you go to the gym for that one day, you're better off than you were the day before. And if you go 2 days, you're better off than you were the day, 2 days before. Same way with your money. I mean, you can be broke, you save $1, hey, you're better off than you were the day before. You make that $2, you make that $5, And the kicker is figuring out what to do with it. Because just having money in your bank's not gonna make you money. Putting it in your can or your drawer or whatever. So I don't know, in a nutshell, I don't know what it pertains to your guys' business experience, but I guess the message I want to bring across is, it's if you put your mind to it, learn from other people's mistakes. There's a ton of books out there on how to do it. It doesn't take a lot to become a millionaire, it really doesn't. But it's like anything else. You gotta have a mission, you gotta have a goal, you gotta keep going to the gym, go to the gym. So keep an open mind on that. Now I'm up for questions and answers. I could start here.
So you say that your company does life insurance,
Yeah,
So do you suggest investing into whole or term insurance? Why?
good question. Now, for you to ask that question, you know more than I don't know, and that's a great question. So I don't like to put something in a box where you never do this, you never do that, because sometimes there's cases. But to make a long story short, I'm a term guy. And here, you guys know what term insurance is? So basically, you get life insurance and it's set for a period of time. Could be 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, but it's set. Once you get it, it won't go up. And you pay the premium. It's kind of like paying your car insurance. The second you stop paying it, then you don't have insurance. But as long as you lock it in and keep paying it, and then once you go beyond that 15 years or 20 years, you got to start over again. You don't have anything. So if I don't die in 15 years, that was a bad investment. I get nothing out of it. But it's kind of like your car. If you don't get in a car accident in 15 years, are you kind of pissed off? Like, dang, I wish I had a car accident. So I got some money back. No, you probably, that's a good thing. But to answer your question is, term insurance is like 20 cents on the dollar cheaper than whole life or universal life. So what whole life and universal life, and when you have term insurance, you don't build any cash value. It just pay your money. If you die, someone gets the money. With whole life and universal life, you put more money in, so it costs you like 80 cents more, and it's supposed to grow your money at whatever rate. And then ultimately, here's the problem with term and whole life. 85%, and I have my insurance license, by the way, so that's what I'm talking here, but 85% of whole life and universal lives elapse. And what that means is you build cash value while you're younger, and you put money in, and it looks, you got some cash value. But then as you get older, it goes like this, and eventually it goes under. So like I have a gentleman out in Welton, this was like 3 weeks ago, he had a $240,000 life insurance with $40,000 cash in it, like built up in it. And he was 70-something years old, and within 4 years, he was like 72. In 4 years, the policy was gonna be broke. So that 42 grand, they're gonna pull out like 7 grand a year, and then they send you a letter that says, hey, your policy has elapsed, please pay us a big check or you're done. So my theory is get term life, and everyone should do it, especially if you have people that rely on you, spouse, kids, get term life, and get it far enough out. I made the mistake of not, I got it far enough out, I did 30 years, but I didn't think I was gonna make it, as much. I didn't think my income would go up like it did, so I had to come back 10 years later and buy more. So I wish I would have just overbought initially, but. So then you take 20 cents to protect that, then the other 80 cents, put it into a 401k, put it into a Roth IRA, put it into an IRA account. And what you should do is become self-insured, which means if you live long enough, you eventually want to have enough money. Well, you don't need life insurance. Like if I die, kids are out of the house, my wife has enough money. I mean, so the goal is to become self-insured. So life insurance is appropriate, but I'd rather build assets somewhere else, not that way.
To stay on that same topic as far as life insurance, you see a lot of things online about people using life insurance while they're alive and not dead. Using it like if it's your own thing.
Yeah, see, there is, I mean, I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but they're kind of telling you the good side of the story. There's always good pros and cons with everything. So that telling you that you can borrow against it and not pay any tax, and then you can, put it back, which is true. A lot of times the life insurance don't pay a lot of money. You might make 2 to 4% or something. But that's true what they're telling you.
So that's how it works, you borrow money, you pay it back.
Yeah. With an insurance product set up, you can borrow and you don't pay tax, and you put it back, you don't pay tax. So that, but I think you're better off just having money available, or buy stocks for 5 years and then sell some if you need money. But you're much better off putting it into something that's gonna grow. Now, stocks are liquid. You buy real estate, you might get stuck. No one wants to buy my house. I need money, and now you're in a really bad position. At least with stocks, you can get out, right? Or bonds, you can get out. So there's different ways to do well. And I know I've seen the thing on the internet, and I read it thinking, damn, this is cool. And I actually looked into it. This is like a long time ago. It's not as cool as it looks. I mean, everyone has a little pitch on what they're trying to do. Any other questions?
Now that they asked about life insurance, I'm gonna ask you, there is a number of Irish gypsies that live in some Spanish, like or something like that. And they see the reason why they're all wealthy and they all live in these big mansions is because they bought life insurance on each other. And then they wait for everybody to die. Have you heard about that? Or am I going on there?
Yeah, man, not really, but the only way to really collect a life insurance is dying. And the average the life expectancy is getting older now. I think women are living to, early 80s. Men are like late 80s. Yeah, the COVID and that kind of set things back. But the point is, unless you can figure out who's gonna die, that would be a great investment. I mean, you guys got 15 people in the room here. If I knew who was gonna die, buy life insurance, get rich. I don't know how they do that, to be honest with you. But what I think they could do is a lot of those people do labor contracting work in that. So what they might do, and this maybe started 100 years ago, is pull their money. So now they're insuring these contracting jobs themselves, like as a group. And then instead of paying insurance companies money, they're paying themselves. That could be the case. I could see that happening more than wait and see who dies.
Yeah, it's just kind of a weird.
Yeah.
It's more a statement. My brother-in-law likes to buy houses, and I asked him if he bought a house and I paid it off. So family, being a group. He said no. Things don't come easy in life.
So you told him if you buy a house.
He buys a house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I pay it off. So with his, because he likes to buy
Yeah.
multiple houses,
Yeah.
and I said, can one of them be mine?
Yeah.
And I'll pay it off. He
Yeah.
said no.
Well, I mean, but I tell you, if he owns a house and you pay it off, guess who owns a house? He does. Make sure you make
No,
sure.
well, yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
legally it would be.
But think about it, you only need 5% to put your money down on your first house. So say you buy a $250,000 house in Yuma, you need 11 grand. Now, I don't know, it's not hard to come up with 11,000 if you work 1 or 2 or 3 jobs. So there's ways to get stuff done.
What's your opinion on angel investing?
So angel investing or VC, venture capitalists, that kind of thing.
Yeah, 2016, they made it possible for that.
Yeah. So here's my thought. Do I do a lot of angel investing? No. The ones I did were individual people I knew, and I lost money 3 times all of it. But here's my problem with angel investing. a lot of companies don't make it big. And sometimes when you invest with that company, because angel means it's a private company and then you're trying to buy it before it goes public. But once a company goes public, you kind of know it has something to it because, it's big enough for, it's kind of like planting a tree, gets to a certain point, you get leaves or fruit, it's not as big enough. So with angel investments, it's pretty risky. But if you hit the right one, like we've been an angel investment in Uber, you could be, billionaire. So for the average person, I don't know if that's the first route you want to go. But if you had hypothetically, if you were worth 50,000 and you want to put 3,000 to 5,000 in something like that, I want to talk you out of it if you really want to do it, because maybe you're right. But I wouldn't use that as the first way to build money, because you're going to strike out, 20 times, and then the one time will probably make a lot of money. So unless you have deep pockets, it could be, that's my opinion. Any other questions, gentlemen? I know you've been talking a little bit about, sounds like you know a lot. Anything I talked about you want to ask a question on? No. Well, the technically not risky because the FDIC is backed by the government by 250,000. So as long as the government backs it, they can print more money, which they can, right? They get a limited printing machine. So I don't think it's that risky. I mean, it's very solid. Now, if you have $500,000 in a bank and you only insure up to 250,000,
Like
Silicon Bank, yeah,
Silicon.
yeah. So, but CDs and that, no matter what, aren't going to pay you much. So safe, good, but don't try to accumulate money and get wealthy off of CDs. It's be tougher.
What's the longest term that you would know?
Well, it all depends on the interest rate, because what's that? Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go too far out. I mean, I would go, 1 to 3 years or something. But let's just say rates go back up to like 12% CDs. So if you think rates can go back down, then you want to lock that in and maybe do a 10-year CD. You can wait 10 years. A lot of people are patient enough to wait 10 years. So it just depends on where interest rates are going. Got a question, gentlemen?
Okay, so you cracked the seal. So with what the FDIC just did, they basically just turned the money printers back on and announced that $250,000 is no longer the case. Janet Yellen testified before Congress saying that no, the normal Joe Schmo Bank over there in Oklahoma isn't important. It's going to be a power talk between me, this committee, and the president. We'll decide when to bail them out. So looking long term, so you're managing other people's money for investment, right? That's essentially the job.
Sure.
Okay. So long term down the road, what the Fed and the FDIC just did with Silvergate, Silicon Valley, First Republic, then you had Credit Suisse swap lines last year, then you had Deutsche this morning. What's going to happen in the next 10 years long term? What is your prediction?
To the economy, the banking system, the
Credit system, because the entire credit system right now is exactly that. It's all based
Yeah.
on debt and credit.
Yeah, so I mean, we have what, $31 trillion deficit, which is a lot of money, and it's gonna only go up. So it's gonna be a crisis. I mean, the wheels are gonna hit the floor. Will that happen this year, next year? But it will become an issue. The bigger issue is GDP, which is gross domestic product, which is how we measure on things we make and sell to everybody. The high interest rates is gonna eat into that. So if they don't fix that problem, the standard of living for Americans is gonna go down. So the old days where, a Coke would cost you 50 cents, it might cost you $3. But that's another reason why you can only control what you can control. You can't control the Fed, can't control the president or anybody else.
I can control that with my money. So that's what I'm saying. So where should money the entire system? We have to make it a debt-based economy.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about leveraging debt and credit lines for that, right?
Sure.
So it seems that that's your philosophy. If that's your philosophy, it's trickle down from top to bottom to the people who are going to need you to be messing with other people's money and leveraging that credit lines. So long-term 10 years, it takes about an average of 19 years to recover from the depression, 24 years to recover from the Great Depression. If we hit, well, we're in a technical recession.
So I have my answer. But before I give you my answer, I'm curious because you're a smart guy. You probably have an answer also. But my answer is you got to own hard assets.
Yes.
So we're on the same page?
Yeah.
Okay. So what hard assets is, most people think gold, silver, which is part of it, but also can mean a tractor, It could mean a generator, it could mean something where when I wanna sell something like this, I only paid $5. Now I can sell it for $25.
You like total pay?
I don't know what that is. But the point is, it's more of a trading market and it will hold their value. Something weird happened in the used car business this last year. If you guys follow the used car business, is that rates went extremely high, even higher than a new car, which was weird because that never happens. But it goes back to the Yeah.
All the new vehicles and
Yeah.
used vehicles are being sold at a.
the supply demand issue, yeah. But the point is like if the economy really fell on its face, like you're talking about, then all those hard assets are gonna be worth that much more. Whether it's a car, whether it's a gun, whether it's, something, iPhone, whatever.
Not to mention the salespeople get a lot more commission off.
So what are the primary things to look at? Whether it be charts, terms, geopolitical, what the Fed says, what Jen Young says, what are the primary things if you're gonna look at something? What are the main things
So,
you guys look at?
so I'm not a research guy. You go to my office, I don't spend 8 hours with a bunch of charts and that. Those other people in the industry that's all they do. So what I do is I'm a master cheat sheeter. So I have access to, 10 or 15 different companies that have financial reporting, including Credit Suisse, Dutch Bank, some of the ones you just mentioned. And I also, personally spend money on newsletters. So I probably spend about $2,000 a month on newsletters, which sounds, weird, but there's different newsletters that say different things. Like for this gentleman, could probably start a newsletter about what to do if everything went to hell. And people would probably subscribe to that because I want to be, know the answer. So I kind of get all this information myself and then I come to some conclusion on it.
So you go 30,000.
What's that?
Basically, look at stuff from a 30,000-foot advantage point instead of like 5,000. Take all the relative information, you look at ML Cola, and
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, if you start in the weeds right away, then you might miss it. So if you start from a higher standpoint, you can at least see. But I'll be honest with you, like, you can spend all the time in the world debating on why you shouldn't buy a house. Mortgage rates are high, the neighborhood's crappy, my brother-in-law won't give me a house, whatever. But bottom line is, those people in life, I think, miss out. I think you're better off going crazy into something, maybe getting beat up and slapped around a little bit and learn, and then do it again. Because in my 28 years of doing this, there's always a crisis on the horizon. You guys remember in 2000 when all the electricity was gonna go out because the clock was changing, Y2K? I mean, and then there's always, the Russians, Iraq war. If you wanna sit in a little box and say, it's gonna get uglier, you could do that. But I'm just saying, I think over time, unless you're 100% right, like you're better off just proceeding with some fashion. Maybe not go 100 miles an hour with your investments, but maybe go 50. And then sometimes it makes sense to go 100 miles an hour. So if the market's down, like the S&P's down 20%, is it a better time to put money in the market? It is. But how many Americans actually do it? A lot of people, they do the opposite. When the market's really high, they check their buddies made money, the internet's high. Oh, let's buy stock. And then when it falls on its face, I have to, I'm like a psychiatrist with my clients. I got to say, this is a wrong move. You do not want to sell now. You don't need the money. Here's some charts, wait 1 to 3 years, things should get better. But if you're talking about the ultimate meltdown, that's a whole other scenario, which I think you are. Yeah.
So I know for myself, I'm more of a business, so we have a couple of, do you do any kind of internships with this? Like, do you offer stuff, like, when you come in and do maybe like sales or?
Part of the reason is it's confidentiality, right? Because it's like sitting in a doctor's office and someone comes in and says, oh, I got this. So it's hard to, right? But some of the people I've hired in my office worked for me in high school, worked for me in college, and I hired them. They still work for me. So I don't know if it's an internship, but I'm always looking for hardworking people. I'll be honest with you. I was raised on a farm in Dayton. My dad had all of us working. We were hoeing cotton when we were 7, 8 years old. We were happy to get the $2, $3 an hour. And a lot of people nowadays, they don't want to gut it out and do the hard stuff to make it work. So am I looking for good people? Always.
His dad is Robert Fresh, and he used to be a science teacher at Ron Watson.
Yeah,
He was my children's science teacher, and then we did 4-H together.
yeah. You
He
just-
was entomology.
Yeah, he was a master's in etymology, study of bugs. So, any other questions? I got about 7, 8 more
I
minutes.
have one.
Okay.
Okay, so when I'm in the classroom, I always tell the students that they're gonna invest different kind of investments. I'm the same age. as you. And, I don't do that here. I'm asking. All right. It's like a real- And I told him, I said, I need to invest, more stable investments because I'm older, I'm almost there at retirement age. Whereas they're younger than me, and they would be, well, they can invest in more dynamic and whatnot. What do you say to that?
So I kind of tell people, building wealth is like building a house. So first what you want to do is get the cement down. If you have bad cement or, you're unstructured, then you're not gonna have a good house. And it's kind of like a pyramid. And then once you get so much here, then you can take it to the next level and do more and the next level. And this is the risk level. So the higher you go up, you're higher on the risk. So angel investors higher on the list. So make sure you get your base going, because what you don't want to do is try something, lose it all, buy a meme or a Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, but smaller. Yeah, something else, and you lose it all, then you lose it all, and then you're like, hey, I've tried this 3 times, I lost it all. So build that foundation where you have, and look this way, when you go to a bank to get a mortgage or get a loan, they want to see assets. If you have an account with $100,000 in it, the bank, they look at the formula again, but they will be very excited. So don't do anything like stupidly, because eventually you're gonna give up on the game and wait till you're 40 to decide, maybe I should try to make money. So there's smarter ways and dumber ways to do things. So, but definitely it's time to take risks, but at least maybe make sure you got the foundation in place, and then the risk is taken higher up the ladder, Does that make sense?
Yeah, and so would you recommend, I call it day trading or gambling? Would you recommend that versus holding on to your stock for dividends?
If you're buying and selling short term, it's a crapshoot, right? So some days you make money, some days you don't. The people that make extreme wealth will buy, well, yeah, that leverages your money, but that also runs out. Options don't last forever. But let me tell you a quick story. So I graduated '93 from college, and my first computer in college was a Apple, the square box one. And I got a loan to get it, whatever. Another guy I met a couple years ago, he had he's from Yuba. He had $2,000 from his fair animals. He put that money in Apple, and he said he barely sold it. And it's worth like 30 million bucks. I mean, it's crazy how a company can, if you pick the right company, you can really do well. So to answer the question, pick the right company and keep set on it for a long time. That's how you get real wealth, long term, my opinion.
Okay, 2 of them, I think.
Sure.
First, what's your recommendation? Traditional IRA, Roth
Depends on
IRA?
your
Long haul.
depends on your circumstances, to be honest with you. So without going into it, but it just depends. One's better than the other, but that's a question that, depends. But I would tell all the people in this room, I'm, my age, I put all my 401k into a Roth 401k, which means you put the money in after tax, you don't get the deduction. It grows with no tax. Then when I pull it out at 59.5, I pay no tax. So with the $31 trillion deficit, where are taxes gonna go? Up or down? You make the assumption they're gonna go up. So I'd rather do that, and not only that, but if I make a 9% return on my money, my $1 in 8 years is worth $2. So do I want to pay tax on my $2, or if I do it Roth, I pay no tax? So yeah, the Roth component is very, very effective, and most of the time I'll say Roth, but it really depends on the individual. Someone else have a question? Yeah.
Do you think, this is a little off topic, but do you think crypto is a scam that they're like starting to say it is? Like, it was this huge thing a couple years ago, and now they're starting to come out like, no, it was. a
It
scam.
reminds me of the internet bubble. So when you had the internet, you had 100 stocks going crazy, and only like 3 made it. So if you can pick the 3 crypto that will make it, that might be a great investment. But there's so many cryptos out there, right? I mean, you can do one, whatever. So it's tough. I mean, like we talked about building the foundation, crypto's at the top.
Right.
So I'd rather you get better investments before you take that risk. Any other questions?
This one. How do you see the economy, as far as banks You know what happened in Silicon Valley. Two other.
So you wanna know the cool thing about the United States? Guess how
The
many,
FDIC.
guess how many banks are in England and France? How many banks? Anybody? Not like bank locations, but how many companies that are banks in those two countries?
Four.
6.
There's 6 now.
Yeah, there's 6. United States has how many? About 4,500. I mean, I'm talking like individual banks, not locations. So, we're still a capitalistic country where, we own 2 local bank in Yuma, First Bank Yuma, Foothills Bank. So I don't think the banking business is gonna go away, but it could if we get more and more people that want socialist kind of.
With what happened in Silicon and. Yes. And the fact that.
So if it's a
those
domino
who have
effect,
Money are gonna start pulling their money out of banks.
Yeah.
Because it's not gonna be insured of anything over $250. And then with the bailout.
but let me ask you this question. We had 3 banks fail, I think. Or 1 in Europe and 2 here, maybe another one. But the stock market for that time frame didn't even go down 1,000 points. So what does that tell you? I'm always a believer that the market never lies. So you would think if someone said, hey, the 12th biggest bank failed, which was Silicon Bank, and the Signature Bank, which I don't know how that's pretty big, you would think, oh, the market would probably be down a lot, right? It really did have an effect. I'm not saying it can't go there.
Going back on her with the Bitcoin, they said that bank fell 18% of the price.
Yeah. They were playing game. Yeah, it wasn't a traditional bank. So anyways, I want someone else who has a question that hasn't asked yet, because I know someone's on the verge of asking a question. Do you have a question, anybody?
I also want to ask IRA, because, trade and like, add,
Uh-huh.
but, but I'm working part-time, so I don't have the 401k.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So.
So- Yeah, so you can put 7,000 a year away in a IRA or Roth, as long as you get W-2 income to show you made it. So you don't need a 401k unless you want to put away more money than your spouse could do one if you're married. But everyone can participate in a retirement plan today, as long as you're working, W-2 income. So you have to put money in an IRA or Roth, you gotta have working income. And you'll,
Just a service benefit, not you.
But you have, you have the.
so when you fund an IRA or Roth, you gotta claim it on your tax return. The IRA would lower your income because of pre-tax dollars. The Roth, you still gotta claim it, but it's after tax dollars, won't affect your taxes. But the IRS wants to see you did it. So, yeah. Any other questions? Gentlemen in the back, anybody? Come on.
Question about understand how we want to invest. I am like so it's recommend to invest just in the business that we have knowledge and business. But so I also read that it's good to diversify our investment.
Mm-hmm.
But the time you can take to learn how the businesses are working, so it is recommend to start learning and invest at the same time, or you will take more time to learn about the business. Because if you want to invest in diversity,
Sure.
so many business, if you enough time to learn all the things about
But see, I think learning freezes people to some degree. If you want to learn exactly what this company's doing, you would never do anything. No, I don't disagree. You gotta understand what you're investing in, but you don't want to get to the point where you're trying to understand exactly. Let me give you a quick example. I went to high school in Phoenix. I walked through my first Home Depot when I was a freshman, and Home Depots were brand new. And I'm not a plumbing guy, or I don't do stuff contracting wise, but I walked around and said, damn, this is a cool store, because all the other hardware stores are smaller. There's a huge warehouse, and I knew like this is something special, but I didn't have the foresight or anything to buy Home Depot stock. If I would have bought Home Depot stock, I mean, I would have done extremely well. So my point is, don't necessarily go out and have to learn everything, but if you have a product that says, hey, I like this, maybe I should find out who makes it and then put money in. I'll give you one quick thing before I leave.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you, how do they start? Should they contact an office like you, or go on the internet and find a trade.
To be honest, yeah, so I wish we could take care of everybody, but we're limited on people, right? So we actually have limits in our office where you have to have a certain dollar amount. But nowadays you can do it free online, but you can also blow yourself up online. So I would educate before you even do anything. Vesting for dummies, stocks for dummies, option for dummies, do all that before so you don't get beat up. Here's my one quick story. So I was driving back from Northern California. I was dead tired, dozing off. This is like 10 years ago. And I was like, man, I gotta get a hotel. I don't want to spend money on a hotel or whatever, trying to come back to Yuma. So I was at the gas station. I got a drink or something like soda. And I saw the little 5 Hour Energy. You guys saw that, right? So I said, man, okay. So I took one and I didn't even know what it was. I mean, it's supposed to keep you up. So I took it. I drove from LA back to my house in Yuma and watched TV for 3 more hours. I went to bed at like 8 in the morning and I got home at like 5. But this stuff, and I was like, dang, so I had the bottle. I looked at the back and it has one cup of caffeine. Like caffeine's not good for your body. The rest is vitamin B12, vitamin B. It had like 2000% vitamin B on it. But if you guys have never tried this, like I'm gonna go to the comedy thing tonight at the Crest. They have a comedy show, and I've been up since I've been up early. So I'm gonna probably be tired, but I'll probably drink a quarter of one of them. So they keep you up. It's amazing. But to make a long story short, I looked at that company and said, I want to buy this company. It's a private company, so I can't buy it. Within 3 months, he was on the front cover of Forbes magazine as the next billionaire. He's out of Michigan. He's an immigrant. That's a cool story on how he made this concoction. That's all he makes. He doesn't have any other products. But the point is, find something you like that works. Apple phone's cool, and just buy it. You don't have to know all the details. Hey, if you like it, someone else likes it. Just be that simple. Unless you don't get stuck in the weeds, you won't do anything. Yeah.
So back to are they pretty standard across the board about where you open them?
No, that's probably different. Well, the government rules are standard, but there could be fees and things that are different. But the rules are standard, yeah. So you can't every IRA, yes and no. But so I know the gentleman back here on the phone. You had a question? The glasses, Austin. Well, I'll go back to my house. So I'd rather build other foundations of good money before you start chasing the high risk money. And I'm not saying money can't be made in the next 10, 15 years of Bitcoin, maybe it can, but that's not the first place you went out to go get, in my opinion. And I gotta take off.
Yeah, but it's fine.
Yeah, any other thoughts? Appreciate you having me come on. Oh, one more. Buying it? Well, so here's the thing about it. It's like buying real estate. You can get all different prices, all different commissions. So if you go to a local pawn store in Yuma, they're going to charge you 10, 20% premium, which is not good. So there's a company, write this down. It's called Fidelitrade, FIDELITRADE.com out of Virginia. And you can buy coins, silver coins, 1 ounce, whatever, and they ship it to you. So it's called Fidelitrade.com. FIDELITRADE.com. And they only charge about a 1% commission. And I'm done.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Sign this sheet, please make sure you sign it. My